Hey YouTube, soon there'll be grapes, and then there'll be wine, and I'll be happy. This continues the process of my deconversion, my losing faith in the Jehovah's Witnesses. And this one's entitled, Jehovah's Witnesses are the best people in the world. Having noticed that Jehovah was quite frankly unpleasant, the next thing I learnt to do was keep this knowledge to myself and play the game of two faces. My internal awareness did not match the role I needed to play to keep my family happy. I did not want to lose them, so I looked for other reasons to strengthen my faith. I reasoned that if I could remain faceless and featureless inside the best group of people in the world, there was a faint possibility that Jehovah wouldn't notice me, and the group's righteousness would cover for my inadequacies, and I could sneak into the reward. My confidence was supported by the number of incidences in the Bible when Jehovah displayed a clear lack of interest in the individual personalities of those he destroyed. It was about tribal in-groups and out-groups, and even God killed his own when they had good intention. Check out the Israelite killed for stopping the Ark of the Covenant falling to the ground. I figured Jehovah had always preserved at least a few people from his murderous anger, even if his reasons were not logical or consistent. I just might sneak in. Even if I didn't like what was said of him, who knows, maybe I'd like him in person. On paper, this is clearly a cunning plan, not to be discovered by people if I played the game of two faces well. There is something in Jehovah's Witness theology that has the potential to be noble. The concept of personal responsibility for your actions, rather than running amok in the knowledge that Jesus has already forgiven, should uniformly produce wonderful people. It should produce people of fine character, people that do the right thing, even when alone, and I could hang on to their noble coattails. But as I grew in understanding, I began to realise that those around me at the Kingdom Hall had learnt the same lesson I had in my pre-teens. If people don't see you, it doesn't count. They too played the game of two faces. The hypocrisy was amazing. I noticed that the more piety Jehovah's Witnesses displayed, the more dirt there was to discover. It was elder sons that appeared to be having the most disregard for rules. I knew one that sent young sister after young sister to the termination clinics or single motherhood. It was a pioneer sister that invited a certain underage male home, whilst he was on a Jehovah's Witness arranged language exchange trip, plied him with wine and artistic pornographic images. I saw that elder son defended and the girls disfellowshipped time and again. I saw a girl abused at the Kingdom Hall, her mother bullied, and the matter not brought to the police to protect Jehovah's name. The victim and abuser were both counselled to knock more and pray more. I knew Jehovah's Witness kids using drugs and parents turning a blind eye as long as those doors were knocked and privileges gained at the meetings. I saw wives with black eyes. I saw the mentally distressed told to pray more and knock more, and upon a suicide, his family rejected, as spiritually weak rather than comforted. That young man died because he was gay. It was rumoured he'd had his first experience and couldn't face himself, neither his family nor his God. He was considered weak and unworthy. But if you think about it, he was honest but misguided. If he had played the game like everyone else, he'd be alive today, maybe realising there was absolutely nothing behind those grandiose claims he died for. He was discovered by his sister in his bedroom, who never quite recovered from the fact that she'd seen hints of his emerging sexuality, but hadn't gone running to the elders to have him punished, as she should have. I saw an older bisexual woman encourage a young sister into bed with her elder husband. The young sister was disciplined and encouraged to go to another congregation, and the man effectively high-fived. But what offended me most was that these same people had the effrontery to knock on people's doors, smile and tell the world they weren't living right, and that joining the Kingdom Hall would make that householder a better person, more worthy. I was truly gobsmacked. I didn't know how they could do it. The people around me took the game of two faces way too far, to places I couldn't follow. I didn't feel I had the right to advise people on how to live their lives, and the people around me certainly did not, but didn't seem to care. I never enjoyed field service, but began to feel I would collapse under the weight of my own hypocrisy if I tried to bring the innocent worldly into the pristine-coated cesspool that was my Jehovah's Witness religion. I was now a conscientious objector to field service, and my clear reluctance embarrassed my parents and caused the elders to discipline my father and me by the withdrawal of privileges. I felt bad for my father, but I just couldn't bring myself to be that sort of liar, selling polished turds from door to door. But as long as everyone at the Kingdom Hall dressed right, confessed nothing, door knocked, and gave lip service to Jehovah's organisation, everything was fine. Just don't get caught and don't confess. There used to be a TV comedy in England called Keeping Up Appearances. At times the hypocrisy was as funny as that show, but unfortunately for some at the Kingdom Hall, they thought they were acting for their eternal lives. I really started to worry about the kind of people I was caught up with. People for whom hypocrisy was the only way to have a semblance of emotional or mental stability. Hypocrisy the only way to have a personality and remain a Jehovah's Witness. I observed that witnesses know how to present a facade, a mask needed to earn and keep privileges. Witnesses to me seemed to come home from the commercial rat race and immediately start another. Having privileges inside the Kingdom Hall was the be-all and end-all of the typical witness intent. There was no charity, no genuine care for anyone outside of their ability to earn or dispense privileges, and no love or human understanding. But man, were there rules. I watched our eldest son lauded and applauded whilst the girls he impregnated were made to sit at the back silently or refused entry altogether. I saw the scramble for privileges go as far as to inform the elders of the secret behaviours of others, because that would move you up the ladder as your victim moved down. Privileges inside that group equated to a spiritual strength meter, a way of immediately gauging the value of an out-of-town or unknown witness, and mentally putting that person in their place. The content of that person's character almost irrelevant, as long as their hair was regulation, his suit regulation, his smile regulation, and he had the right privileges, he could play that game and win. And even though they claimed to knock out of love, what I saw was exactly the opposite. Bad world events greeted with excitement, because the end is near, and proof of Bible prophecy. When there were earthquakes or other bad events, Jehovah's Witness interest was only in helping other witnesses. Why help Satan's people? Why help the people that many were recruited from and we try to convert on the doorstep? Every negative event was greeted with barely concealed excitement behind a mock sadness, because the event represented Jehovah's anger and their vindication. Every quake, bombing, or new war made them feel closer to feeling right, and the world's problems gloated over. Feeling right in the absence of anything more certain gleefully justified them. It was the only thing they had. That and the idea that God was punishing the non-believer in the run-up to his angry arrival. And on that day of God's anger, witnesses would see the worldly repaid for not joining them when two strangers knocked on their door one Saturday morning, selling blatantly dishonest religious magazines. I found witnesses glorying in the imagined role of the oppressed, while enjoying the freedom to wake people up in the morning to spread their "God's going to kill you, but loves me" message. How can they be oppressed by Satan's world when it's Satan that provides them with roads, printers, cars, and the freedom to preach against the system he owns, the money to do so, and the opportunity to affect politics? It makes no sense. Yet despite their claimed oppression, I saw witnesses looking down on homosexuals, women, and absolutely everyone outside of the Kingdom Hall, including the genuinely oppressed. I observed a theocratic hierarchy of aloof disdain that wasn't reserved to those outside. The hierarchy reached into the Kingdom Hall too, like a caste system, with elders ruling and unmarried females as serfs. I saw the continual beat of that exclusionary tribal drum, despite the claim there are no divisions. Just look at the Kingdom Hall. You'll see every race, nationality, and ethnicity. But you can be fooled by that facade, because Jehovah's Witness divisions start with the suit and extend into your thoughts and surface actions. But crucially, depend on your willingness to leave everyone you've ever known if you won't play the game of two faces. I saw how the process of self-deception went even into the English language. It was manipulated to ensure the truth doesn't reach them. Normal people became Satan's worldly. Honesty, according to the Aid Book, became due only to those that deserved it. Lying became theocratic warfare. Truth was whatever the governing body said that week, even if it contradicted the edicts from the week before. And genocide was God's love. They were not the best people in the world. In fact, I found them to be quite the opposite. Petty-minded, rule-obsessed Pharisees, hypocritical, unthinking and uncaring drones with delusions of importance and persecutions, and a naked thirst for Jehovah to complete their personal vendettas against the world, which they rejected, but so wished they could join. I had no genuine human connections whilst I was in that group, because I was accepted only when I complied. Sure, they're lovely when you follow the rules, and for a brief time I carried the microphone, but as J.W. Fairy Tale says, see what happens if you do charity work instead of door knocking for a few weeks. See what happens if you put down your privileges, or if they're taken. That politician's smile will soon disappear, and you'll find yourself without even your mother to speak to. So I found I wasn't exactly relaxed and comfortable with Jehovah's people. In fact, the worldly were less afraid of life, weren't interested in reporting me to elders, made long-term plans, and were what you see is what you get kind of people. I could be myself. I just had to be selective, but the worldly had genuine humans to select from. But it turns out that I'm not the only one to feel that religion brings out the worst in people. In the United Kingdom, a government survey conducted in 2007, the last of its direct kind, found back then that 42% of British people thought religion was harmful on people and to society. No doubt the percentage is higher now, because in 2014, Britain officially became a secular atheist nation, with more than 50% of the population directly saying there is no God.